how do you create that stickiness that keeps real estate agents with your firm? Well, David Keener, who's the CEO of Premier Realty at Real Brokerage, has come on the podcast today to explain exactly how. And one of those ways is dual licensing, which I think is fascinating, and he has a lot to say about it. So enjoy the podcast. David, thanks so much for joining the Real Trending podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about your teamerage. So Premier, you kind of describe it as a member-owned, agent-centric teamerage, and you're with Real. So tell me a little bit about your team and, the culture of your team.
So Premier has actually been around for about 8 years. We've been with Real for about a year and 8 months now. We actually span across 27 different states, just shy of 300 agents. Most of that growth occurred over the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're at about, I think, 1,750 to 2,000 transactions a year. We just hit over $1 billion in volume. It's been a pretty exciting time, to say the least. But we originally joined with Keller Williams a very long time ago, then joined with EXP. But again, now we're at Real, and there's no better place to be right now.
So explain to me, are those the people in your downline, or are they actual team members?
No, that's a good question. No, that's not my network. Okay. That's my team. Okay. Those are actual agents that are a part of Premier, and they actually have their stakeholders in Premier. And that's what makes us unique is we are member owned and member operated, unlike any other real estate team I've ever heard of.
Okay. Go into a little more detail for that about how you're structuring it and how that works.
Yeah, so it is probably the number one question I get is how is it that we have such a high retention rate? Because this is real estate after all, right? And, every 2 years an agent starts getting a little itchy and looking at the grass on the other side. I've been in business, building businesses for about 30 years. Prior to the real estate industry, it was in technology. But during the course of building those businesses, these were W-2 employees. One of the things that we were able to do with those employees that were helping me build these, me and my co-founders, build these businesses was stock options in lieu of a full salary. Because let's face it, money is very important, very tight when you're starting out. So we equipped them with stock options. In other words, a vested interest in our collective success. And what I learned over, again, 20 years until I got into real estate was I did very well financially, but what I walked away from was when we were able to hand over those envelopes with those checks, their percentage or their share of what we're able to sell for, it changed my life. And because it changed their lives and it hit me, it caught me off guard to see single family moms with a 6-figure check that, was making a salary of $40,000 a year, or an accountant that worked for free for a couple of years to be sitting on a $300,000, dividend, for just being along for the ride and having faith in that we were going to get to that ultimate place. Then I got into real estate again about 8-9 years ago and said, I want to replicate that. But again, not in technology, in real estate. So literally from day one, I wanted to build up a team or a brokerage on a national scale and do just that. I wanted to pay it forward, give people a vested interest in the collective success of a bunch of people kind of going in the same direction, doing everything they can, and at the end of a journey, having something to hold on to of substantial value. So what we did was about almost 2 years ago, we flipped from an LLC to a C corporation. And that's important because you can't give out or have more than greater than 100 shareholders in anything other than a C corporation. So we do. We have greater than 100 shareholders. That's the members of Premier. So every real estate agent you ever hear that's affiliated to Premier, they're my business partner. And I'll get into more detail here in a little bit as my guest, but that's exciting because what it does is it creates stickiness. Who would want to leave something they have a vested interest in? You know what I mean?
So let's go into that. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And so talk to me about how you structure it so everyone has a voice, but you still maintain that, the business like it is.
Yeah. So I'm the CEO. I make the final decisions. There's a board of directors. If something ever happened to me, they find a replacement, and we exist as we are right now, just with a different person at the helm. So in terms of what stake they have, that comes by way of a stock option agreement. And how many stock options they get is based on their tenure, how much they've contributed towards, the splits and things like that. And that's what dictates or determines how much equity they have in this collective success known as Premier.
Okay, great. And you said you came from a tech field, and I know Real, I interviewed Tamir at the gathering, and I also interviewed him for a podcast. He talks about how Real is a technology company, and they're all in on AI. Is that what attracted you to Real, or and how what about that are you interested in?
Yeah, AI wasn't even really mentioned too much when we made the decision to come over to Real. The reason we made that move, there's a couple really solid reasons. One would be their API access. So Real has a system they call Reason, Rezen. That's the system that every agent logs into to conduct their transaction management operations. But it also keeps track of a network if you have one, the rev sharing you make it, basically your whole business. But what made it compelling for us was the fact that they also opened up that infrastructure and provided API access to people like me with a technology background, so I could extract the data that I wanted and put it into interfaces and systems and use them as I felt necessary. In other words, they weren't holding my data, my information, or transactions hostage. That was a primary reason of coming over, as well as the more flexible model they had or approach towards real estate teams. In my opinion, before we made the move, and it took us 6 months of due diligence before we made this move because it was a critical one, we needed to be affiliated with a brokerage that got it, that real estate teams were the future, that real estate teams do provide a lot of value, but more importantly, they gave them the flexibility to operate as they felt necessary rather than, giving down certain rules or restrictions on what you could or could not do as a CEO of a real estate team.
Okay, great. And so you've expanded, you said 27 states, I think?
27 states. Yeah, we just opened up Alabama.
Okay, so tell me, what is your growth plan? How are you expanding? And are you strategically choosing places, or are they strategically choosing you?
Wow, that's a good question. What's really funny is, how many recruiters we have at Premier? None. All of our growth has occurred almost exclusively organically, one agent telling another, and we're pretty selective about who we want in the organization. I say that, but new agents are welcome here. We just want to make sure they've got a good work ethic. If they're going to be successful, they're going to leverage the tools and resources that we have. In terms of where or how we expand is truly dictated by the phone call or the email or the message, hey, I'd like to learn more. And through a process of interviews and discussions, we show them this is what we provide, this is how you can benefit. We then go on, if we find it's a good candidate, we first want to have a team leader in place. A lot of people look at me as the team leader, Premier. I'm not, I'm the CEO, I'm the operator. And underneath me, I have 42 team leaders across the United States. And I look at them as a proxy to me. Because let's face it, 300 people, I can't talk to people every day. And in real estate, it's very important to have those relationships. So the growth that we've had is determined first by, is there a person, a presence that we can have to be an extension of what we have here in North Carolina, in that particular market, in that particular state? And if we have one, then we're open for business. We will allow other agents. Because you and I both know that real estate agents are typically very relational. They love their offices. They like to network, hang out, have a coffee. They work 7 days a week. And we wanted to extend that. That's hard to do in a cloud brokerage with no offices. So I think that that's probably a secret to our success, is that we open up with virtual offices and there's a dedicated resource to be there and assist them and support them to have a sense of community, again, as a proxy to what we've done here centrally.
And do you market to certain states for them? Because how do they find out about you? Is it,
Yeah, we don't do any marketing other than a website. Occasionally, our marketing folks will do an ad for a particular, like maybe we have a need because we have a certified mentoring program. And oftentimes, we might get a lot of interest from a lot of new agents that heard about us, but we don't have a certified mentor local. So we might run a Facebook ad, hey, any real estate agents out there looking to add additional financial opportunity, come talk to us. All you have to do is let these people shadow you, help them become successful. So that's about the only advertisements that we run.
Okay. And let's talk about the tools that you're using. Is it across the board, everyone that you're working with uses specific CRM, all of the real technology platform, or tell me how you're working your tech?
So while I said that Reason is the platform that all the agents can use to see their data, because they're with our team, we provide a lot of services to our agents, so much so that they don't even need to go into Reason if they don't want to, because we provide dedicated transaction coordinators and managers to do that for them. In terms of the technology, we do have a set of tools and tech that we use in conjunction with Reason at Real, but so much so that they don't really need to go in there. For example, we use open to close as an intake form after an agent goes under contract with someone, and they just drag and drop that, and a transaction manager takes it off from there. We use Follow Up Boss as our CRM for lead management. We also are big fans of Fellow, which is specifically tailored towards listing leads. And we even have our own app that we spend 6 figures a year on up in the Google Store or the Apple Store for any consumer to download and have an aggregated view of all of our listings across the United States.
Okay. And so how are you structuring compensation? Is it truly a teamerage? Everything is running up to you?
Yeah, because we're also very unique in that, as you know, brokerages usually charge caps, a certain amount every year that you're obligated to. Well, you have those at Real too. They're very small. It's $12,000 a year. Well, we actually pay that on behalf of the agent. We're unique in that we have a team cap. The most that you'll spend with us is $20,000 a year, but that $12K comes out of that. So we're making about $8,000 or 700 and some bucks a month per agent per month if you average it out, and you're getting a couple of $1,000s a month in tools and resources, which makes it an amazing value proposition.
Okay, great. Any new areas opening up soon? Any new states?
Yeah, we're excited. We just opened up Alabama, so we're looking to expand there. Florida's on fire, Texas, California. They're all busy. We're growing in every area. So nothing in particular. We're very fixated on where we have a big concentration of investments, joint venture title companies, such as Texas, Florida, soon to be California, Michigan, and Virginia. So that's important to us, those states.
And you're doing those through your team, the joint ventures? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, those are all owned by Premier Realty Incorporated, which is owned by me and the agents.
Okay. I know there's so many models out there now that are it's hard to actually decide what is a team and what isn't a team anymore. How do you define it? So it's interesting because I think you're running similar to another team, how they used to run. And I know they've changed since then. And I'm not going to name it, but it's a different brokerage. So yeah, but it's really, really interesting how you're running it. And so tell me kind of what prompted you to decide to build it. Obviously, you built some things through tech companies, teams that way. But what were you seeing in the real estate industry that you felt like was missing that you found a solution for?
The biggest, most glaring hole, I think, was business intelligence. I mean, real estate, there's so many tools and technologies, and not a whole lot of them interoperate together without the assistance of Zapier or Make or some other technology like that. Even with all that integration, there's not a lot of them surfacing the data that's truly going to help a real estate agent act like a CEO of a business. So that's what we've been spending a lot of time. In fact, again, we take all of our profit and invest it in assets that generate additional income that we all own. And one of those is a technology company that we're heavily invested in called agentdashboards.com. And it is a 100% business intelligence platform that's getting ready to go live for real estate agents, teams, and brokerages. And it's a bring your own data model, whether you're at Real using Reason or SkySlope or Dotloop or Follow Up Boss and Lofty, whatever. We're building in the automated integrations where the data just comes in. It's centrally located where you can make quick, intelligent decisions about your business, where you were, but most importantly, how you're going to get to where you need to be, layering in some AI capabilities.
Okay. And so what has been your aha moment through building Premier?
Well, I come from a background of W-2 employees with very little 1099 contractors. And then to come into the real estate industry, it was an eye-opening experience realizing that 99% of the people that you're going to be affiliated to are all contractors, and they come and go very easily. Fortunately, we haven't had that situation, but it does happen. That's been the aha moment, is that there's a different approach that one must have with independent contractors. They're not salaried individuals. They make commissions. So you need to equip them. In other words, you got to front the money for the expenses, the tech, the trainings and everything else. And then you might get a good return on it. And if they don't feel a return, they go out the door and try something new. That was an eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah, creating that stickiness to keep them with you,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see the agent movement all the time through some of the companies that track it. And it's really interesting the cycle it goes through. It's kind of a very similar cycle too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about kind of the current, what's going on in the industry today. We've had a lot of from the lawsuits to the low inventory to interest rates are still pretty high. And then there are a lot of shifting consumer expectations now, with compensation. So what do what is the most important trend that you're watching for your agents, and how are you positioning your company to adapt to that?
Man, isn't that was a scary situation a couple years ago. It really was. We didn't know where we were going to be, but I can tell you, based on that business intelligence platform, Agent Dashboards, we've been seeing across the teams no change in buyer commissions. None. It's been steady for that entire 2-year period, which is great because it stands to prove that agents still provide value and people are willing to pay for it. They still do a lot on behalf of the clients, even from a buyer standpoint. Even so, we started a couple years ago really investing heavily in research to determine how are agents going to survive this. And it's real simple. We've graduated our agents' mindsets from being just real estate agents to becoming real estate professionals. That means being able to take a prospective buyer or seller of real estate and be an expert from A to Z. From, let's say, the buyer looking to get pre-approved, pre-qualified, to showing them the home, to making sure the right inspectors were being used, all the way to the closing table, making sure the right title company or escrow company was partnered up, A to Z. And what's great is, more importantly, in addition to being that real estate professional, leveraging that to compensate you as well for those services, for that additional expertise. And what we've realized is that the clients appreciate it. They don't want to go to a lender to get this question, an agent to get an answer to that question, or the title company about the keys or they want a single point of contact with those people standing behind them. So that's been an awesome thing that we've done. And now we have, what is it? It's something like 25% of our roster of agents are dual service agents now. That means they're operating as MLOs, loan originators, as well as real estate agents. That's phenomenal. So this all started, we launched that program about 4 months ago. So now they've all given themselves a wonderful raise. They're all making somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000 extra a year, doing nothing different than what they have been doing for decades sometimes. And that's just scratching the surface, just getting started. So we're really excited about that. And because we own the title companies, RESPA compliance, they're not allowed to be compensated for that, but they own a percentage of a company that owns the title companies. Okay. So when we start issuing profit dividends, they're allowed to receive a pro rata share of that revenue. Okay. So they're making money at every single turn.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that's the way, I started in this industry a long time ago, and the one-stop shopping was the buzzword for a long time. And then, it was really more about adding affiliated services. But now with all of the, Redfin, Rocket, Lower, all of these companies merging, it's becoming even more prevalent, in the industry. So what are you seeing with that trend, and what do you see the challenges being?
The challenge is who they reach out to first upon seeing that home, right? The first place they see it, emotion grabs them. They dial the first number to the first face they see a lot of the times. But the more successful agent already has a relationship. They won't do that. Mm-hmm. The more established real estate professional already has a good relationship with that person, whether they see it on Redfin or Zillow or on a billboard, doesn't matter. They're going to call them and say, hey, I see this home. I want to go see it. Can I go see it with you first? Now, we all know that's not most of the time, unfortunately, but the bigger, higher performing agents are doing that. It's definitely a trend that we're not going to see diminish anytime soon, that's for sure. Even AI, right? I mean, AI is out there, but it's not going to replace the agent. AI is activity, right? But it cannot replicate the relationship, at least not this moment, and maybe not in the next year or two, but you never know. It's going to take a person, and trust. AI cannot replace trust, I don't think.
Yeah, that relationship is so important. And I think that it seems to be the most difficult part of an agent's business is just keeping those relationships going. I've met some who are doing like a phenomenal job at it, and others that I'm just shocked, like an agent I worked with personally who never contacted me again. So the relationship part of it for agents who can get that right, none of this really matters, right? They're going to come to them. So what's been the best leadership advice you've ever received, whether in your previous career or now?
Man, I hope it's not cliche. I'm sure you've heard it a million times, but what you tolerate, you teach, and whether it's, if you tolerate status quo or sitting idle or, not learning to do something new or finding a new way of doing something old, whatever it is, you're teaching that. Mm-hmm. It goes very much hand in hand with, lead by example. I work really hard. I do not sit idle. I'm always looking for ways to put more in the pockets of our agents to provide a higher level, higher caliber service to our agents to then offer to their clients. We do not sit idle, none at all. So again, what you tolerate, you teach. Don't stand by and let bad behavior happen. Again, you're tolerating it, so therefore you're teaching it, and others will, conform to it as well. So many examples there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about having team leaders and that. So how do you I guess train them or help them to understand the culture so that you keep that culture as you grow?
So there's a 90-day period, and for a team leader prospect, they have to go through. There's some training and education, and then we have weekly meetings. Fostering, here's what we're doing, here's what's going on within the organization. Then we have regional directors as well that overlay the team leaders, and they're there to encourage and support the team leaders too. It's not a full-time job. These are all producing agents as well, and they get compensated a percentage of our company dollar for every agent that's assigned to them under their teams. So again, they're not working on a full-time basis, but it's a little extra income to be available. Again, they're not the managers. These people are not their bosses. They do not call up and say, you haven't closed enough business, you're fired. They don't do anything like that. They're there truly to be a level of support and a center of community.
Okay, great. Any podcasts or books that have helped you in your leadership career?
Well, I don't know if you know this Sharon Srivatsa guy at sharon.com, but it was funny. Before we joined Real, I reached out to him and we stayed in contact for 6 months, and with no pressure, no time did he say, hurry up and sign this contract, make it happen. It was truly, it started with a friendship first, and it was a true, sincere one. I've been following that guy since then. And he's got a little business school. I forget what it's called, but I love it because of its simplicity. Even in the titles alone, you can learn different things, like how to convert 5K into 100K in the next 90 days, or building your team with type A players only. It's just so many different things that they serve as constant reminders that this is what I need to be focused on today or this week or this month. You know what I mean? So he's somebody that's truly, kind of reminded me, what it is that I should be doing. And I really respect that. In terms of books, this is going to be an oldie. Mm-hmm. Don't sweat the small stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, most of us are like perfectionists. And perfectionism can absolutely destroy your happiness, your gratitude, your success. Mm-hmm. And that book teaches you so well not to get caught up in that 80% is okay, that mostly is good. And the rest of it, no one's going to realize anyways. And so many other things. Don't sweat the small stuff. If you haven't read it, it's an easy read, but it truly can change your life. More importantly, give you happiness and peace in all things that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Biggest mistake you see new real estate leaders make?
Real estate, like team leaders?
Could be brokers, could be team leaders.
I would say the biggest one is thinking that the more people that they bring to their team or their group, the more money they're going to make. It's just not true. More money, more support requirements, more technology, more licenses, more time. In my opinion, the greatest asset is not money, it's time. And I see a lot of real estate leaders, they reach out to me, for just advice or just some consultation or just to shoot the breeze. And they all ask, how do you do that? I got 20 people. How are you doing this with 300 people? And it's through delegation, costs money. It's through trainings by someone else, costs money. It's through amazing technologies to automate the agent's business, costs money. Everything costs money, so therefore the margins stay about the same or shrink. So the biggest mistake, I think, is this idea that if they get enough agents, they'll be able to reach their financial goals. And there's absolutely no truth to that, none at all. Profitability rules.
Yeah, that's true. I have two more. Focusing way too much on the competition and also focusing way too much on current industry happenings rather than
butterflies.
Yeah.
Butterflies is the fastest way to go broke, right?
Yeah.
No doubt about it. You cannot chase butterflies. Find it, stick to it, and go.
Yeah, absolutely. The one trend that you think is overhyped in real estate right now?
AI. It's not overhyped, okay, but it's overhyped. It's a phenomenal tool. It's like electricity right now, right? Everyone's got to plug into it at some point and learn to use it to their advantage. Yeah. But it's not going to replace you. You're going to need to, crack open the books, log into a few of these accounts, use it. Don't use it like Google, right? Actually try and use it as a tool to make you better, to make you more intelligent, to then offload and provide to your clients. But that's the big thing right now. I've seen a lot of agents panicking right now. This industry's going to be gone. And I agree to some extent. There's going to be a lot of agents that are gone because of it. And it's because that they didn't, adapt to it. They didn't incorporate it like the other agents did. We have to close more. That's the bottom line. We have to close more, and this will help you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. An underrated opportunity for agents. My last question.
Your last question. Underrated opportunities, hands down. Well, it's kind of a play on what I already discovered or disclosed, and that would be ancillary services. If you are a real estate agent and you have not looked at becoming an MLO and taking advantage of like One Real Mortgage at Real, you can make 50, 60 basis points on top of what you're making as a real estate agent. That's incredible. And then there's programs like Texana Bank, their REMLO program. You don't even need to become an MLO to get 50 basis points. You become an extension of an MLO, a business development person, making 50, 60 basis points also across all 50 states. If you're not looking to build up additional revenue streams, you're going to be in trouble. And then the other thing is the underrated opportunity you're talking about is leverage your success. If you're a team leader, leverage the collective success of the team and go out there and market yourself to warranty companies, to lenders, to many different other companies and get better pricing, get income opportunities to offset some of your overhead. But make sure you're doing that because you have value, you have worth. Now, you're going to have to make sure the agents are toeing the line and using those vendors that you've partnered with, right, for everyone's collective success. But those are underrated opportunities right now. Title, my gosh, a high margin business right now. Again, sorry to plug Real shamelessly, but they've just rolled out that agents at Real can become Class B, Class C shareholders in what is going to be 50 joint ventures across the United States. That means the collective success, everybody gets a quarterly dividend based on the collective success as the organization in all 50 states. That's incredible. So again, between mortgage, title, and being a real estate agent, that's how you do it financially.
Yeah, that's great. Well, David, thanks so much for joining RealTrending. I really enjoyed learning about your business.
Tracey, it was great being here. I appreciate your time and look forward to the next one.